The first project with your triangle loom is a simple geometric design with fringe hanging off the bottom, perfect to be hung on a wall. Begin by creating 3 small triangles at the bottom of the loom. The 2 outside will cover 8 warp strings and the middle will cover 9 warp strings with a gap of 1 warp string separating the 3. I am using regular cotton, doubled up to work quickly. These shapes will be completely covered by fringe later on. I am using regular cotton, doubled up to work quickly. These shapes will be completely covered by fringe later on. As you work up the sides of the loom, mimic the angle on the inside of the triangle by completing the same number of rows it takes to fill the space before moving on to the next stair step of warp strings. When you have completed the small triangles, use a book or a flat object to wrap yarn around to create a pile of the same length of yarn for the fringe. You want the width of the object you are wrapping around to be about the height of the triangle, so that it is long enough when you cut it later on. Using 2 lengths of yarn at a time, with the raya technique, add 2 rows of fringe above the borders of each triangle to completely cover the triangle shape that you just wove underneath. When you add fringe to the outside border of your loom, it may help to use a needle to guide the raya into the tight spots of the warp strings. Now that your fringe is in place, you can fill in the spaces between the Now that your fringe is in place, you can fill in the spaces of the triangles with 1 to 2 Now that your fringe is in place, you can fill in the spaces between the triangles with 1 to 2 different colors of yarn. Here I am creating a simple border with a chunky white yarn. Now I will finish filling in the spaces using a custom hand spun yarn. Another great technique for this design is sumac. I am using a 5mm rope to add a single row of sumac and then tucking the ends behind the weaving. Next, I am using the same regular cotton from the first 3 triangles to add a last border and a small triangle to mimic the top shape. You can fill in all the way to the top or leave the top open to show off the vertical warp strings and the beautiful frame of the loom. The best part about this loom is that you don't have to cut off your tapestry, so open spaces will stay put and you can get creative with techniques that wouldn't work on a regular tapestry. I am also going to use some beautiful handmade metal African trade beads to sew on in the tapestry below the sumac border. The last step is to trim the fringe. You can leave it long if you like, but I'm going to cut it so that it mimics the triangle shape above to create a diamond shape. An easy method for this has 3 steps. First, comb out the fringe so that it is nice and straight. Second, find the bottom center point that you want to start with, and then use the edge of a long piece of tape to draw a line from the center point to the edge of your triangle frame. The last step is simply to cut along the edge of the tape for a nice, clean shape. That's it! Feel free to explore your own techniques and enjoy this beautiful project on your walls.